Hello, this is Ed Keay-Smith from onlineimpact.com.au, here with the co-host of the Business Marketing Show, Mr. Brendan Tully, back for 2019. Mr. Brendan, how are you? Good to see you, mate.
Hi, Ed. This is our first podcast this year?
This is our first podcast for 2019. We've been slack. We've been on holidays, and we're just getting back into it. We had a good break, and everyone, I'm sure, has missed us desperately.
Definitely.
Missed looking at these two handsome young men.
Very young.
Very, very young.
Questionably
young. Still in diapers. So did you have a good break? I know it's a bit weird in February still talking about Christmas breaks, but there's a lot of people who in Australia have only just come back to work. School's just gone back. So it sort of feels like it really is just the end of that Christmas, New Year break, which it technically really is. So,
Well, yeah, I wish I had 6 weeks holidays. That would be nice.
So did you take any time off?
Well, I came to visit you, didn't I?
That's right. I knew there was something that happened.
Yeah.
Yes, met your lovely family, which I hadn't met for the first time. Very, very awesome. And did Arnie have a nice time meeting all the rallies again, catching up?
Yeah, she just loves adventures. She's loves people, loves adventures. So
yeah, she's gorgeous.
She doesn't care. She gets out meeting people. That's all she cares about.
She's a little darling. Enjoy every second, because soon she'll be 20.
I know, right? Well, she's already 1 and a bit, so that was a quick year.
No matter how much people say it goes fast, they're always under-exaggerating by a factor of 100. So anyway, enjoy. So we're going to be talking today about getting reviews for your business. And that could be reviews on social media, could be reviews on Google, various things to help improve and get some quick win traffic to your website. And this is something we've been getting asked a bit to talk about. So we thought, let's do an episode on reviews. Not sexy, but very, very profitable if you get it right.
Yeah, and I mean, reputation management, it's also called as well. I don't know, I saw, so we've been getting asked a lot about it, and it is important, right? Saw recently someone on a Facebook group asking where they can buy reviews from. I'm like, you crazy? Like, seems like, one, it's risky. I mean, you can't get dodgy reviews. So let's just say that up front. There are companies who will get you fake reviews on product pages and Google Maps listings, but it is risky, and people aren't stupid. Like, consumers know that reviews are faked, or where they seem fake, they probably are. And it's really easy to get. So long as the business isn't falling apart, it's pretty easy to get a system in place to get reviews, and it is so important. Like, it's important for both traffic and conversion. So,
yeah, and that's it. It can say reviews can go both ways. It can be a positive experience, or it can be a detrimental one, depending on what the reviewer is saying, obviously. So let's start off with Google, because that's a big one that a lot of people I see and you see don't take advantage of.
Yeah. Well, I mean, reviews are everywhere, right? So I'd say Google is probably Google Maps is probably the most applicable for all businesses. So I'd say Google Maps, Facebook business page, if you're an e-commerce product page reviews, or reviews on product pages if you're an e-commerce business. And then you've probably got niche specific ones depending what industry you're in. So TripAdvisor, if you're in tourism or hospitality, is a big one. But yeah, Google Maps is probably the king, right? Like, it's probably the one that gets the most exposure, because when someone searches your business name or Google Maps listing, it shows the review stars there. So should probably talk about the negative reviews first, because that's something everybody has a fear of. And it is going to happen. Like, no matter what, there's always someone that you are going to, inevitably, if you're in business for any length of time, someone's going to be upset or not 100% happy at some point, and you're going to get a less than 5-star review. So we should probably talk about that first, because I don't know about you, but I have clients who get one negative review, and it does look really bad, and it is quite an emotional thing for some people. But I think accepting that negative reviews do happen, just like we've talked about before, like with backups and stuff. You know, it's better to accept that the shit is going to hit the fan sometimes, or bad things are going to happen, and have a plan in place or a system in place to, one, detect when it does happen, so the damage you can act before it does too much damage, and two, just, you know, accept that it is going to happen, so it's not really this like emotional punch in the stomach if someone leaves you a bad review on the internet, which is going to happen at some point. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I'd say first step, you got to accept bad reviews are going to happen. Second step, you probably need a system in place to monitor your online reviews. I would say that's probably the second step there. And I think also once you have something in reporting or something in place that is telling you about the reviews on a regular basis, it's probably easier to get that momentum and motivation to do something about getting positive reviews.
Okay. Are there any tools that you use that you would recommend people to try and monitor that sort of stuff? Or do you think it's a case of just having to do it internally on each platform? There's nothing that does it all for you?
Well, I'll tell you what we do for our agency clients. So we have two tools. So we've used different tools throughout the years, but the last couple of years we've been using a tool called Agency Analytics that does review reporting.
Yep.
So it will monitor those platforms for reviews. And then as part of our monthly maintenance for clients, one of the steps in that maintenance process is to search the business name. So do some brand name searches and see what the search engine results look like. Because quite often, so one thing we come across fairly regularly is it's not so bad now on Google Maps anymore, because that it tends to and intermittently emails you about reviews. So you probably come across it at some point, but quite often you'll see some weird, obscure third-party website someone has gone and put a negative review on. So it's got like a 1-star review showing in search results when someone searches the business name. So in Australia, productreview.com.au is a very typical one where I don't know why they seem to attract a lot of negative reviews. And then also Yellow Pages is a fairly common one we see where negative reviews go on there. So I guess at the base level, just Googling, having a reminder to Google once a month your business name to see what the search results look like on both Google Maps and just the listings, and see one of those third-party sites. A lot of those sites get, I wouldn't say they encourage negative reviews, but some of the business model is based on charging you to deal with the negative reviews, or like charging you to remove negative reviews. So
yeah. What about using something like Google Alerts as well, putting in stuff like that?
I don't think Google Alerts works really well anymore. Do you use it actively for anything?
Not overly.
Yeah, I don't think it's very reliable. We've got some reviews set up for some of our businesses, and it doesn't seem to work that well. Kind of comes and goes.
You would think that's the phone. You would think it would, based on that it's, you know, bringing in data from its own review platform. But
yeah, it's weird. It's not like it used to be. Like 10 years ago, Google Alerts was great. I think it's just not really a product that makes them money. So yeah, I don't think it gets a lot of love. So I don't think that works as a strategy, because it's not reliable.
So what's the easiest way for people to get reviews? What would be a good process? As an example, let's work through a scenario. Say someone has an e-commerce store, they've sold a product, and they want to get someone to do a review on Google Maps for them. What's the best thing for them to do?
Well, okay, so let's talk to begin with. They need to do good work, right? Like you need to be pumping out good stuff, good products, whatever it is.
That helps.
So you need to,
that helps. You want to get a good review.
Someone to give you a good review, right? So I'd say that's probably a prerequisite. And then I mean, there's two paths we go down with clients. So the first is you need some reviews, a handful. So some are better than none. And then, so normally if we're taking on a new client that has no reviews, it's really important to get some. Because if you have 0 reviews and you have 1 negative review, then you look really bad. But at least if you have a handful, if you have 5 or 10 and you get 1-star review or whatever, 1 3-star review, it doesn't look so bad.
Because I think a lot of people realize, like, we're all used to looking at reviews on Amazon or movie reviews. There's always going to be people that have a negative opinion about something. So, you know, but I still sometimes find myself getting influenced by it a little bit. So they do have an effect. So you've got to factor it in. But I think ultimately, if the overwhelming review ratio is good and small amount of negative, then most people will go, okay, that's just someone who had a particular experience.
And a lot of the time you read reviews and they're nonsense. Like very commonly in e-commerce is like, oh, the courier didn't deliver them and I had the product and then I had to go pick it up from the depot. I'm like, that's not really a negative review. That's just... No.
And that, you know, that's just people trying to pick something or anything just because they like to complain. So there's always going to be those people.
Yeah,
so,
but I mean, that sucks. But yeah, I mean, it's not really a review of the business or the product. But yeah, I think, okay, so we need to get some manual reviews to start with, right? So, you know, reach out to some good customers, whatever, do whatever you need to manually to go and get that initial momentum. And then the businesses that really win at the review game is where it's systemized. It just happens on autopilot. No one ever has to think about it once the system is set up. Yeah. It just works away. So generally with that, we always try to work it into a workflow. So if it's a typical bricks and mortar business, if they're doing projects or whatever, it's just we'll ideally build it in as part of the project. So at the end of the project, we ask for feedback and having some sort of filter there. If the feedback sucks, then that needs to be dealt with as a piece of, I guess, management needs to deal with that. And if the feedback's great, then, a second request to ask them to put a review online, Google Maps, Facebook, wherever it's relevant, would be the way to go. So that, that would be the system to automate it, I would say. So, and you need to have a Google account to do a Google review, correct? Yeah. So that's the other thing, right? Like you need a Gmail account or a Google Map to submit a Google review. So that could be a little hurdle for people. And the majority of people that I speak to have some type of Google account. But if they don't, there's no real way around it, is there? You can't. Yeah, it is a bit of a barrier to entry. It's good and bad, right? But like the review rate on Google Maps is certainly going to be a bit less than something that's probably a bit more popular like Facebook or even anonymous reviews on your website. So it really depends. Like a B2C, a retail environment is probably easier to get a volume of reviews, whereas something like a professional services business that's doing projects is not pumping out thousands of projects a year. Yeah. So that's going to be harder. Like 10 to 20 reviews would be a good amount of reviews, whereas an e-commerce business that's shipping, 20, 30, 100 orders a day, having hundreds of reviews is not unusual. So yeah, exactly. Yeah. Cool. So okay. Yeah, I mean, in your, go back to your question there. So for e-commerce, typically, so the process that we use that works really well. Now I hate when I buy something from a website and it sends me this stupid template email asking for it's really poorly written. Yeah. Asking me for a review, and I'm like, why? I don't care. So generally our approach with our e-commerce clients is, so the order ships, and then 10 to 14 days after the order ships, we have an automated email that goes out asking the customer if the order actually arrived. So, generally the subject of that email is, did your order arrive okay? So, that's the first step, making sure the order got there in one piece, and that's a good idea. Happy. So that's our filter. And also, if it hasn't arrived, if you have 2-day shipping and 14 days later the order hasn't arrived, there's a customer service problem there that needs to be addressed. So using this methodology, we're ahead of that problem in the first place, right? So we're getting to them before they complain or put a negative review. So it gives us an opportunity to fix it. And it's just general good customer service. So asking, did the order arrive okay? What did you think? Do you have any feedback? So that gives them an opportunity to have a voice. You genuinely, it's the same, like we've talked about before when we do email marketing. Let's try and we drive this kind of point home that the best email marketing is written as if you were writing to your best friend. Like if I was writing you a personal email, that's how the email should read. Are you saying you're my best friend? Yeah. That was so nice. I'm touched. My day. Sorry, continue. I'm getting all blushed. I know, right? I know. No, you're not
three.
my friend at all.
Yeah. So you've written an email to your best friend.
So I've written you an email, my BFF. So ask for the feedback, and then ask for the genuine product review. So if you like the product, we'd love you to leave a review on the website. Here's the link to the product page, and most software can do that. Most e-commerce software can have links to whatever they ordered. And then a second line there, we'd love if you could share your experience on our Google Maps page or our Facebook page, whatever. Most people understand reviews today that, that Google Maps pages are important. So if you have that line in there, that generally works pretty well. So we kind of see like a 5-to-1 or 10-to-1 review rate. For every 10 reviews that go on a product page, we'll get one Google Maps review. So we'll also see, we tend to find that customers that are really stoked will put reviews on everything. So if you ask them to put a review on Google, Facebook, and the product page, they'll do all three because they're really happy. And these experiences where you're treating them like you would a friend, like that comes across really well. And if you have some genuineness behind it,
of course,
the customer feels that, right? So
we always ask also, because we like to have as many of those types of reviews or testimonials or whatever you want to call them on our website or the client's websites, which we don't call testimonials. We call them success stories, which is very common for a lot of companies. I think it sounds more genuine than a testimonial, because testimonials sort of seem a bit forged or made up in some way. That's my experience in conversation with people. So I think asking at the same time for the reviews, if you can use them on your website, would be a good idea for the success stories, because that's always good when people are on the website making that buying decision and they're looking at success stories, and there's dozens and dozens and dozens of people who have left good remarks, and that's obviously a key place that people are going to potentially be handing over their money is on your website. So the reviews have just as much, if not more, impact on the website, in my opinion.
Yeah. And some of these, it's going to differ for each different business type, right?
Of course, yeah.
A business that's doing projects, and if they're big dollar projects, if they're 6 or 7 figure projects, there's some budget in there. There's, some scope to actually do proper case studies and,
of course.
Professionally done. We've clients who have professionally done videos and photos and everything else. So, you got to match the level of the business. E-commerce, it's retail, it's B2C, it's, there isn't really any budget. If you're buying $100 widget, there's no real budget to do anything serious. But, on that B2B end, that's a different story.
For sure. Yeah. And that's often people expect to see video reviews, even on low end stuff. It's really common, or in interviews. So video stuff with a high budget is definitely a good idea.
Yeah, probably also just speaking about some of this stuff, you need to be careful as well. Some, particularly in the medical space, in some cases asking for reviews is illegal or against the rules or the guidelines or whatever. So
legal as well. They have law firms are restricted with what they can do.
Yeah, and so some of them are a grey area. So we have some dental clients where they have reviews on their Maps listing, which they can't turn off, but those reviews can't be used on the website. So they can't use. Some industries just have these weird rules where you just can't use reviews in your marketing, which is an interesting one. So
so know your market, or know your client's market if you're an agency. But if you're an individual business, just be aware of that. And that's a good point.
Yeah.
So things like Facebook, let's talk about that.
Yeah, I guess Facebook at some markets, it's really important, right? And a lot of these review stars or review ratings, they start to show in the search results in Google. They appear when you search the brand names. Some people spend all day on Facebook. So Facebook is the internet for them. So I think, again, the same as Google Maps, it's a similar process, right?
Yeah.
And managing those reviews, the amount of, I think even Facebook is worse to a degree, where people have these old Facebook pages that are years old and have a whole bunch of negative reviews. You might have seen it, where you open the page and there's all these and it's kind of weird because they're hidden in a sense, you're clicking through to find them. So, Yeah.
But it is interesting what sticks. And we've had some clients that have been really negatively affected by an ex-staff member that left really, really bad reviews that then got sort of mainstream media attention.
Oh, wow.
And then next thing this company knew, they had camera crews on their doorstep with microphones being shoved in their face, and everything that was being made up was a totally made up lie by a disgruntled ex-employee who was, let go because they weren't doing their job properly. And she just decided to get back at them. And that's common. Like, that's a really common scenario. But it really, like, that particular year probably affected them to the tune of $500,000 in lost revenue. Wow. Because what was happening was a lot of the negative stuff was getting, in terms of search results, was getting pushed ahead of their normal search results. And this comes under what we mentioned before in terms of reputation management. Because reviews in a positive sense, that's great. You want to get them so people go, oh, yeah, that's really good. But the negative side, you've got to really keep an eye on that too. So, I mean, I always ask people, do you check either your name or your business name on Google regularly, just to keep an eye, not to, boost your ego or anything, to see how many people are talking about you, but just to see what actually people are saying about you, and to make sure that it's on a positive side. Because if you don't know the negative stuff is happening and you're not keeping your finger on the pulse, your business can be getting affected and you're not having an opportunity to fix it.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, right? Like, if it gets enough popularity, one single Facebook post can start appearing on Google, so it can be indexed and start to rank. We've seen that. That's why, as part of our maintenance, we search the brand names for clients just to make sure we've got our bases covered. And it doesn't show up anywhere in a marketing report, right? Like, you don't feel it until that month later, or where it really starts to kick in and starts showing in the real business numbers.
Yeah, it's cancerous in sort of that analogy.
Yeah.
But if you get it in time, you can do something about it. But
yeah,
it's hard work doing it.
Yeah, like and you see these nonsense reviews from time to time. Like, someone just you'll see they posted a negative review on a client's Google Maps listing, and then you click on their profile and you see they have 50 other 1-star reviews where they're just hammering businesses. So quite often with that, and it's not genuine. Like, they call a business and they wouldn't give them the price they wanted or something. It's like, that's
it's made up crap. Because what people don't realize, or maybe some do, but that there are businesses out there who employ teams of people to go and create negative reviews for their competition. So they've got farms of people out there just going on, setting up accounts with whoever, Google, Facebook, and then going and dumping all these negative reviews against their competitor. It's very nasty, but it has a profound effect on. Yeah, that's why they do it.
Yeah, so often you can get those removed quite often. So where possible, we'll flag those reviews where they just don't look genuine, or they just leave a 1-star. Like, some platforms let you leave a star rating with no comments. So we'll flag those and we'll respond. So as part of our maintenance, we will reply to those reviews as well and ask for more information, because you can. In most platforms, you can do it on Google Maps. You can do it on Facebook. You can reply to each individual review. And I think it's a good idea most of the time to thank people for reviews, and to, if they've left a bad review, ask them for more information. And especially if you can't, people will have seen it where businesses reply to reviews and ask for more information. Hey, we can't see you in your database. You've never done business with us. Can you provide us more information? Can you email us? That sort of thing.
Yeah, I think if you're very civil in your response, people see that, and often the people who are potential customers or past customers will rally to your defense. I've seen that a lot when I've read reviews. But again, if you're not watching it and keeping your finger on the pulse and seeing what people are talking about, then you're going to miss it, and it will all sort of fly under the radar till often it's not too late, but the damage has been done. Then you got to try and reverse engineer it all, and people don't realize how much time that takes.
Yeah, there's a huge time component, right? Like, it seems like to even get 1 or 2 new Google Maps reviews a month is a pretty decent amount of reviews. So
yeah,
to get quantity, like if a competitor suddenly has, you start paying attention to this and they have 50 or more 5-star reviews, it's going to take you a couple of years to get to that level for a lot of types of businesses. So
yeah, because a lot of people sort of, they get a little bit numb to being asked to do reviews. That's just the fact that we all, I would probably in any given week get asked 10 times to do reviews for some business I've done stuff with or whatever. And everyone's busy and sort of like, oh God, really? So it's only going to be for a small percentage of businesses, I think, that you've really had a great experience, that you're really an advocate for. And I think that's the majority of people who leave positive reviews. You would certainly classify them as an advocate of or an evangelist or a fanboy or girl, whatever you want to say, of that particular business, because they feel so great about what you've done that they have to leave a review. It's, and they're the ones you want, obviously, anyway, but they're much harder to find. So if you're only dealing with a small number of clients, as you said, in any given time period, then it's harder. But I think one of the mistakes that a lot of people make with reviews is they just leave it to chance and expect that whoever they're doing business with will go and leave a review. There's a great book by Jack Canfield called The Aladdin Factor, and it's all about asking. If you ask, potentially you will get. So there's a huge tip. Actually ask your clients and customers.
My old business partner used to always say, don't ask, don't get.
Don't ask, don't get. That's what I say all the time.
And then one of our staff members changed it once, and it was, if you ask for it, you'll get it.
Yeah, well, that's always not actually. That's not really true. I get where they're coming from, because if it was that simple, but if you don't ask, you definitely won't get.
I think I own that domain name. Don't ask, don't get. Actually, Ed.
Do you?
Yeah, I think
you've got some weird domains.
I know, mate. I'm a domain.
You're worse than me.
I've got some serious domain mojo head.
You have, yeah. Let's get that one on the. All right, now let's move on. What about? I mean, there's also like if you're a restaurant or something like that, you're going to be using some other platforms.
TripAdvisor in Australia, I'd say, is probably the big one. In the US, Yelp is huge, but in Australia, it's really a nothing kind of site.
Yeah, it's not much. They do appear occasionally in the search results when you see Yelp, but I certainly don't think it's a platform that has huge traction. But TripAdvisor definitely.
You need to be mindful, I think, of some of the Census Yellow Pages platforms, because they seem to, if you get one-star review on one of them, they'll copy the review to all the other sites. And I think part of their pitch is, hey, we can do something about these reviews if you pay us some money. So they have like True Local and half a dozen other of these weird Start Local, True Local, something else local sites that can all start appearing in the search results with 1-star reviews that don't look great.
But I certainly pay attention to TripAdvisor. I think I've been using it now for probably 10, 11 years. And it's one of the first places I go to. I read a lot of the reviews so I get a good spread, and I'll pay attention to any of the negative stuff and take it in some way to go, okay, and it may only be a small detail that they're complaining about, but it may be something that you don't particularly like. So it does help to take it into account. But I think TripAdvisor is a fantastic example of a good place to make sure, if you're in the accommodation or services, restaurants, etc., that's a good place for sure.
Yep, for sure. I'm the same. But also, when I read those reviews, that you got to be mindful of who's reviewing it. So, if it's a budget thing, if I'm looking at a budget hotel, a bunch of backpackers are probably going to give that a 5-star review, whereas it might be not necessarily a 5-star hotel.
Yeah, you do have to take everything with a pinch of salt, don't you? All right. So where else? What else can people do to get reviews? Are there any little hidden gems of?
I mean, you can incentivize them. I'm not a huge fan of getting clients paying for reviews. I know some services businesses will give away like vouchers and things if you review them. or they have competitions where, now some of these things are against the terms of service as well for these platforms, and you can have all the reviews. If someone complains, there are some instances where they'll strip all the reviews out. So
yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, but incentivizing reviews is a bit of a funny one, I think. Like it's definitely a gray area, both for the platforms and potentially legally as well. I guess you need to be mindful of that. But I think with all this stuff, you really need, and especially like, when I see people asking if they, for a service where they can pay for reviews, there's probably some legality around that, particularly in some industries around.
Oh, definitely.
If you're misrepresented, you probably have one foot in something that is illegal, or whatever the governing body doesn't like if you're doing something dodgy. So,
and it only has to come out once that if someone discovers that you're paying for reviews, that taints all of the other reviews.
Yeah.
In terms of the positive reviews. So I think you need to get them organically. That's been my experience. I've never solicited, when I say solicited, I do ask people if they will give reviews, and I get clients to ask if they can give reviews as long as it's within their legal boundaries of what they're doing. But I've certainly never offered to pay or give any sort of remuneration or anything for a review.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I think it shows up, like it appears somewhere, like it might work, but it's risky, and it's easier just to build an organic system in. Like, it's not a hard thing to do to build that into your process. It's like anything else in a business process. You got to just treat it as a project, give it, whatever it takes, 5 hours to rejig the process, retrain staff, whatever.
Yeah.
And, then you're set, and then you get reviews on autopilot. You never have to think about it again.
Shortcuts never work, do they? That's the thing. People are always looking for a shortcut. Yeah, true. Sometimes they do. But I think, building a strong foundation, part of that is having good reviews. And you can't avoid it in this day and age. And I can't see them ever going away in my lifetime. I think that's always going to be part of the fabric of the internet now.
Yeah, reviews are one of those funny things, right? Like email marketing. They're easy not to do, but they're free in effect, and they're so powerful from both the traffic perspective. So, like, if something has a lot of review stars on it, wherever it's appearing on Google Maps or in the search results, people are going to tend to click on it, so it'll get a higher click-through rate. So it's good for traffic, and it's good for conversion as well. So, the more reviews you have, the better, really. If all things being equal, if someone's looking at you or a competitor and you have 100 reviews and they have 0, then you're most likely going to win. So it's really like one of those things like email marketing, that it's free or near free, that is super powerful. But for whatever reason, people are always looking for these hacks that are like so fanciful that they may or may not work. They're looking for gaps in the system, whereas something like this is just sitting there. But it's actually quite a bit of work to change a business process and educate your staff. So I think that's where the barrier to entry comes in. But for the clients that we have that do it properly, like, they see great results. Those reviews just come in consistently. They never have to think about it. They get the report that shows them the reviews for the month, and everybody's happy. And occasionally they get a bad review that they have to do something about. But that's part of doing business, right?
It is. The 80-20 principle applies to reviews, doesn't it? Like it does to everything else. 20% of the people are getting 80% of the reviews.
Yep.
So the rest aren't even bothering, and they're just getting pushed down to non-existence, and it's going to be harder and harder. So I think really at your own peril as a business, if you don't start going after the reviews, it's going to be very, very difficult to play catch up with the ones that have been doing it for years.
The time factor makes it like a really good moat around the business. So, there is absolutely a time and compounding factor. More reviews attracts more customers, which then, you get, if you systemize it, you get more reviews. So, here's a question for you. Have you ever had a client who uses Trustpilot or one of those review services? Have you seen those?
I know Trustpilot, but I haven't ever had it mentioned to me. Not to say that a client hasn't used it. Yeah. So what's the story with Trustpilot that you've had?
Well, basically you pay for, they set you up with a profile, and it's similar to Yelp and some of these other paid services where you pay them and they give you some tools to go and get reviews. But if you're not paying them and you get a negative review there, I think part of their business model is they rank in the search results for your brand name terms. And if you get negative reviews on there, you can't do anything about it until you pay them some money. So I think that's broadly how it works. Like I have some clients that in the e-commerce space that have hundreds of Trustpilot reviews, and I don't really understand why they've kind of been sold by a salesman.
Well, they have, and the thing is, you see that on a lot of the e-commerce sites, the Trustpilot logo with the star rating underneath it or whatever they've got on there, along with half a dozen other similar type services. Security is often one that you see. This, you could probably name a few others, but Trustpilot is one that I see quite a lot, particularly on e-commerce sites. I'm not sure how much you would see it on. Yeah, I suppose you see it on service-based businesses as well, but I see it all the time on e-commerce stores.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Trustpilot's doing obviously a good job in selling it to people, convincing them that they need to have it, because people, if they don't see the Trustpilot thing on the website, they're not going to trust you.
I don't know about that. Like, they sell it as like they're genuine reviews and all this. I'm like, Yeah, customers aren't stupid. One thing we always try and get clients to do is own their reviews. So one thing we do with e-commerce clients is, so they have all these product pages, say they have 50 products, and then the reviews go on those product pages. So one thing we try and get them to do is collate them into one. So they have those product pages, that's great. But then we also have a main reviews or testimonials page where we'll have like a monthly job to go and copy and paste those into that page. So they have one really big long page with hundreds and hundreds of reviews on it. So that also works really well. And with that Trustpilot kind of stuff, if they have done that, we'll try and do the same. It'll be like, well, let's go and grab those reviews, let's copy and paste them so we own them, because really Trustpilot owns that content and they're charging you for it, which is it's a bit crazy, but that's their business model and they're obviously selling it. But having them on your website in a central place where they stand out and they're in the menu system, that can be another kind of powerful technique.
Yeah, good idea.
Either it's just being organized and doing it as part of a monthly process or monthly maintenance.
Awesome. And what about places like Amazon for reviews?
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're selling on Amazon, then that makes sense, right? Similar sort of process, asking for reviews.
Yeah, no different. I don't do anything on Amazon. It's not my area of specialty. So I'm not sure whether that would be something there's a specific process for. Have you dealt with that?
We use the same process on our Amazon listings. We have a small Amazon business that we use the same thing, ask them if it arrived okay. And quite often, well, not quite often, but a few times a year we'll have people where the shipment has gone missing. So we can chase it up or do whatever. It usually appears, and sometimes it's damaged or whatever, but we use the exact same process there as we would on an e-commerce website.
Yeah. So. eBay is an interesting one because I buy a lot of things from eBay and have done for years, and there's sort of like a two-way rating system. So you rate the buyer because you're always seeing a percentage rating against the particular eBay store, but then you as a purchaser also get rated by the store, which is interesting. It's a two-way street because they're asking you to leave a review that, like, anytime you buy something, you're always getting, and it's always coming up in your messages in your eBay when you log in. So so there's potential if you don't leave a decent review, and you got to be genuine. But yeah, it's interesting that the actual buyer is...
Yeah, I don't think the buyer can get a negative review, though. I think they're going to get neutral.
Okay. Is it neutral?
So,
okay.
Neutral or positive, whereas the seller can get a negative review.
Here's me thinking I was just such a fantastic buyer.
Maybe you are.
I am a very good buyer because I always leave reviews and feedback, and that's my humble opinion. So on that note, anything else to finish up before we finish up?
So recap. So so monitor your the brand results and the search results in Google for your brand and business name. Ideally, have some software.
How often do you think?
I'd say once a month is probably enough. It depends how much, how big the business is. If you have a marketing team, you probably should do it once a week.
Once a week, yeah, exactly. If you've got the capacity to deal with that, for sure.
Yeah. So, and again, it should be, for our clients, we use Process Street, which triggers a whole bunch of maintenance in our system and all this sort of stuff. So there's a checklist process we run through for it. Have some software, that's reporting on this stuff, and then a lot of the software can alert you if you get negative reviews.
And what software would you recommend? We put this in the show notes as well.
Yeah, I mean, we use Agency Analytics. It's okay for that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's lots of different tools out there. Like, we've used Grade.us or Grade Us in the past. It's kind of pricey for what it is, though. It's like $100 US a month, which is just too much, I think, for that sort of software.
Mm-hmm.
So, ideally some software, especially it's a marketing tool, right? And then systemize the process of asking for reviews on a regular basis.
Yeah, I think that's a key.
As part of whatever you're doing in fulfillment, basically.
And ask, don't get.
Yeah, that's it. Aladdin, what was it? The Aladdin principle?
The Aladdin Factor. The Aladdin Factor by Jack Canfield, one of the authors of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. Great book. It's really probably one of my favorite books that I've read, and has put me in good stead for it's not that complicated. It does become quite a revelation to some people when they go, oh wow, I actually ask. What a shock. All right, well that's awesome. I think it's very useful because it is certainly something that we get asked about. So we've simplified it to a degree, but it really, when you think about it, it's not really that complicated.
Yeah,
you've just got to put, as I say, it's more about the systematizing that it's done in an automated process, rather than you just going, oh gee, I think I should get some reviews this month or this year. Yeah, cool. All right, Mr. B, thank you for your time as usual. The first of so this is episode 101. Can you believe it? The first episode of 2019, and it happens to be episode 101. So thank you for listening to this episode. We appreciate your time, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for listening and watching. Bye for now.